All right, recording is started. Welcome everyone to the September 9th meeting of the STP Project Selection Committee. I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 9:31. Mary, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So the members I see on the call right now are Kama Dobbs, Dan Burke, Kevin O'Malley, Mayor Rockingham, Mayor Shelkey, President Gallagher, and Heather Mullins. Are there any members present? Sorry, getting a bit of feedback there. Are there any members present who I did not call?
John Donovan is here.
Great. Thanks, John.
And it looks
Jeff
like
Schreiber's here. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
no problem, Jeff. Thank you, Mary. It looks like we have a quorum present. So before we get started, I want to remind everyone that as permitted by the Governor's Disaster Declaration of August 20th, 2021, the determination has been made that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent for this committee. To ensure that the meeting is as transparent as possible, staff posted the meeting materials 1 week in advance. We will provide a recording of this meeting linked on our website, and we'll take all of our votes today by roll call. As usual, we'd ask that everyone please mute themselves when not speaking, and feel free to use the raise hand function and meeting chat box, which staff will be monitoring. Staff has not proposed any agenda changes, but I do want to introduce the newest member of our committee. President Alice Gallagher from Western Springs is here representing the Council of Mayors. President Gallagher leads the Central Council of Mayors and has been a member of the Council of Mayors Executive Committee for several years. So welcome, President Gallagher.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be part of this committee and looking forward to working with you. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Are there any requested agenda changes or announcements from the rest of the committee members? All right, hearing none, let's go ahead to move on to our first item of business this morning, which is the approval of the draft minutes of our July 1st meeting. Those minutes were posted with the meeting materials last week. Before I entertain a motion, are there any comments or corrections? All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 1st as presented?
Mayor Rockingham. I'll second. Mayor Rockingham.
Okay, so I've got a motion from Dan Burke and a second from Mayor Rockingham. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mary, will you call the roll?
Okay, President Gallagher?
Yes.
Jeffrey Schreiber?
Yes.
Mayor Shelkey?
Yes.
Mayor Rockingham?
Aye.
Kevin O'Malley?
Yes.
Dan Burke?
Aye.
And Kama Dobbs?
Aye. All right, the motion carries. Thank you, Mary. Moving on to item 4 is our public comment summary and recommended FY 22 to 26 active and contingency programs. As detailed in the public comment memo in your packets, a total of 3 public comments were received between July 1st and July 30th. None of those comments involved individual projects. Rather, the comments received were focused on the types of projects targeted for funding and the scoring methodologies. Given the nature of these comments, staff is recommending no changes to the proposed active or contingency programs, and we're further recommending that these comments be revisited by this committee when we discuss our potential methodology changes for the next program development cycle. Upon approval of the programs today, staff will prepare a TIP amendment to add the active program projects to the TIP. That amendment will be presented to the Transportation Committee at their September 24th meeting, where they'll be asked to make a recommendation to the CMET Board and NPO Policy Committee for final approval of the TIP changes at the joint meeting of those bodies in October. Following that action, award letters will be issued, and sponsors of contingency program projects will be asked to confirm their commitment to remaining on the contingency list through the next call for projects. So prior to entertaining a motion to approve the programs, are there any comments or questions from the committee regarding the staff recommendation or the process going forward? All right, hearing no comments or questions, is there a motion for approval of the FY22 to 2026 STP Shared Fund Active and Contingency Programs?
Moved by Shelkey.
Do I have a second?
Second by Rockingham.
Fantastic. Any discussion prior to a vote? Hearing none. Mary, will you go ahead and call the roll again, please?
All right, President Gallagher,
Yes.
Jeff Shriver,
Yes.
Mayor Shelkey,
Yes.
Mayor Rockingham,
Aye.
Kevin O'Malley,
Aye.
Dan Burke,
Aye.
and Kama Dobbs.
CMAP votes aye. All right, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you everyone on this committee, all of the project applicants, the region's planning liaisons for all of their help, and for sure all of the CMAP staff members that work so hard on the development of this regional program. Thank you everyone. All right, next on our agenda is our shared fund status updates. Elliot Lewis is going to provide those for us today.
Thank you, Kama, and good morning, everybody. As noted in the agenda, September quarterly project status updates are in progress. The reports included with today's meeting materials contain information from the June quarterly updates and other actions that have been completed by or reported to staff since then. Significant changes to the active program projects are shown in red text. These include the addition of the IDOT East Avenue Improvements project to the active program, which is sponsored by Countryside. As you may recall, the sponsor voluntarily withdrew this project from the federal fiscal year 2020 active program in order to coordinate the letting schedule with IDOT, who is leading the implementation of the project. The project is now ready to proceed on the November state letting, and staff was able to program the majority of the funds requested in federal fiscal year 21 by utilizing the remaining unprogrammed funds for the year and obligation remainders from other shared fund projects that were authorized at amounts less than the amount programmed. Also, the reprogramming of the construction engineering phases of Plainfield's 143rd Street Extension project, advancing from 2022 to 2021 to facilitate early federal authorization of infra grant funds awarded to the project by US DOT. To maintain fiscal constraint in the construction engineering phases of CDOT's Canal Street viaducts, Adams to Morgan stage, Madison to stage, were shifted to federal fiscal year 22. This project phase is targeting authorization in October and would have been carried over to federal fiscal year 2022 later this month as part of the 22-00 TIP actions. Also, the pending authorization of $11.8 million for CDOT's Milwaukee Avenue project, which was actually authorized on September 1st. And finally, a change to the target letting for Streamwood's Irving Park at Bartlett project. This project also received ITEP funding from IDOT. Within the contingency program status report, red text indicates changes that have occurred, such as updated target dates, or will occur at the end of this month when the contingency program expires according to the region's active program management policies. Blue text indicates project phases that will be removed from the contingency program because they have been selected for inclusion in the active program or have been funded with a source other than the STP shared fund. With that, does anybody have any comments or questions before I move on to the regional accounting?
Any questions from members of the committee? All right, seeing and hearing none. The next item on our agenda is also Elliot, who will give us a summary of regional accounting.
You have me for a little bit longer. Also included in the packet is an updated regional accounting summary through August 31st. As noted in the previous agenda item, due to active reprogramming, the shared fund has a balance of $0 in unprogrammed funds as we're nearing the end of the federal fiscal year. With the authorization that occurred last week on CDOT's Milwaukee project, 52% of the funds programmed in the shared fund have been obligated. An additional $22.5 million is still expected to be obligated within the next week. If these obligations do occur, the shared fund obligation rate will be over 80% of what was programmed in federal fiscal year 21 and extended from 2020. Within the local programs, just under 50% of the program funds have been obligated so far, with additional obligations expected within the next week. Among the programs, 3 councils obligated more than 75% of their program, 2 more obligated more than 50%, and 3 more, including Chicago, were just under 50%. Depending on those last few obligations, up to $8.6 million in funding may be transferred out of the local programs and into the redistribution fund due to individual councils being slightly underprogrammed or due to project phases that proceeded at their own risk and were not able to meet the September 30th obligation deadline. As a reminder, the redistribution funds are available to the entire region, including the shared fund, to be used on a first ready, first funded basis, and may be requested once a council, CDOT, or this body has obligated 100% of their funding for the year. Does anybody have any additional comments or questions?
Any questions on the regional accounting update? Again, just want to say thanks to all of the project sponsors throughout the region. Honestly, I'm super excited at the high obligation rates that we had in the early stages of these programs. So thank you to everyone out there, to IDOT for moving paperwork, to Federal Highway for obligating funds. So thank you, everyone. All right. Moving on quickly here to our next item on the agenda, the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, or what we're calling CRISA, or may also be referred to as COVID relief funding. As noted in your agenda and detailed in the Marks memo issued on August 18th, the region has received $42.6 million in coronavirus response and relief funding. Each council, CDOT, and this committee has received an allocation of this funding according to the STP distribution formula. This committee was allocated $5.3 million for regional projects. So in order to maximize the impact of these funds on the region's recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, and to ensure that the funds are obligated prior to sunsetting, staff has developed guidance for the programming and active management of these funds. Highlights of that guidance include selecting projects from our current STP active and contingency programs that can have a meaningful innovation, equity, and safety impact on the region's ongoing recovery efforts, while also considering the amount of funds available and project readiness. Also utilizing our existing STP methodologies to establish our match ratios and funding limitations, and utilizing our existing active program management policies with some small adjustments for this small program to ensure timely obligation of these funds. To that end, the CRISA funds will only be programmed in federal fiscal year 2022 with an initial obligation deadline of September 30th, 2022. One 6-month extension will also be permitted, just like in our STP programs. If funds are not obligated by the initial or extended deadline, CMAP staff will then direct the funds to any project, be that from the shared fund, a council, or CDOT, that is ready for obligation that supports the goal of having a meaningful innovation, equity, and safety impact on the region. The guidance also established a schedule for developing a CRISA program. So this body, each individual council and CDOT need to develop their CRISA programs by November 24th. And then following those programs being approved, all of the current STP programs need to be revised to fill any gaps that are created by shifting projects from STP funding to CRISA funding by the end of this calendar year. With this schedule in mind, staff is going to be prepared to make a recommendation to this committee for the programming of the $5.3 million in CRISA funding at our next meeting on October 28th. We anticipate starting from our just approved active and contingency programs, first identifying innovation, equity, and safety projects, and then determining which of these projects are either already targeting obligation in FY 2022 or may be able to have funding advanced to FY 2022. If we can't identify $5.3 million in ready projects of these types, we would next look to strategies to advance these project types from where they're currently programmed into earlier years by shifting other projects from shared funds to CRISA. So that's our approach. We we think that we definitely have projects that can use that 5.3 million in FY22, but we do want to go through that full vetting process before presenting a recommendation to this committee in October. So any questions on the CRRSA guidance that's been issued? Hearing none, seeing no one unmuting. All right, well, looking forward to adding this twist to our programs as well and being able to do even more impactful projects in the next fiscal year. Moving on then to other business. Staff has nothing additional. Do any members of the committee have other business they want to discuss today?
Kim, I would just like to mention that Sis Killen and Chad Riddle joined the meeting.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that. We'll note that in the minutes.
I've been on since the beginning. Yes, not just joined. Yes.
Well, and if I may, oh, sorry, Kevin, go ahead. Yeah, I was just going to thank everyone. I know that the programming of the region's transportation funds is such an important issue, and often it's a technical sort of exercise and it's a little bit of an art and a science at the same time, but I really appreciate this committee's commitment to moving the STP shared fund program through, and to really seeing that we're investing our dollars wisely here across the region. I think we're setting a great example for the rest of the country here. So I appreciate everybody's time and commitment to continuing to make sure that we're obligating those dollars that we have and getting them moving in a meaningful way. So thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Any other business from anyone? All right, we'll go ahead and move on to public comments. Staff did not receive any public comment prior to today's meeting, and I don't see anything in the chat box. I'm doing a quick look for raised hands here. Mary or Elliot, am I missing any? All right.
Not that I see.
Okay. Well, if anyone in attendance today wants to speak, I'm going to draw this out just to give you a couple minutes if you're furiously typing in that chat box now or trying to find that raise hand button. All right. Well, seeing nothing, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item, which is our next meeting. That is scheduled for October 28th at 9:30 a.m. At this time, as we're continuing through the pandemic here, we don't know if the location will be in person or if we'll be in a virtual format. Whatever the status of the governor's disaster declaration is at that time, we'll sway that decision. So we'll keep the committee members apprised as that date approaches. All right. Last chance for any other comments or business? All right. Seeing none, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 9:49. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Kevin.
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a good day.
All right.
We can outweigh anybody. Okay.